So today the talk title is What Apps Are Running in the Background? Now, for those of you who don't know, it took me a long time to know this, to learn this, but when you have too many apps running in the background of your phone, right, it has a significant drain on your battery life, and it slows down your device's performance, and it consumes more data and potentially can cause lagging or freezing issues due to increased demand on the phone's processing power and memory. Well, I'm taking the class, the Four Agreements, again. I've been studying the Four Agreements for a long time. And we have these agreements that we've had for a long time, and they're always running in our subconscious unless we choose to look at them and turn them off, right? Because they could drain our energy. They actually drive the bus. If you know anything about the subconscious and the conscious mind, think of a man on an elephant, okay? The man is the conscious mind. The elephant is the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind does so much that we are unaware of until we decide to become aware. So I want to ask you, what are the apps that are running in your subconscious mind? What are the old stories that you're still buying into that are really driving your thoughts and beliefs and affecting your life? These are the agreements that are running you. And they, believe it or not, they come from when we're like 7 years old, like the first 7 years of our life. We get this information, this data, and we stick to it. So the rest of our life, we're trying to figure out if it's good information or not, right? And we have to work it out. So, it's just fascinating to me. So the agreements are statements or beliefs that our parents, our teachers, or maybe even our friends said that we believed. And we took those thoughts as truths. And these agreements that we've made with ourselves, and they guide us through our life. So to change these agreements that are driving us, that are running in the background and zapping our energy and draining our battery, showing or slowing our progress and making us become stagnant or freezing us completely, there are a few things that we can do. Well, first is to become aware of the agreements, and that's a mindfulness practice. It's a practice of asking ourselves the right questions when we see ourselves getting frustrated or angry about things. And instead of saying, look at what this person is doing, or look at what this is happening here, asking, going within and saying, why is it bothering me? What is the effect it's having on me right now? Another thing is we can replace those with new agreements, ones that work for us, which we're going to talk about those. The other thing, we can live by the 5 unity principles, which is another way to overcome these old agreements. And the fourth thing is to understand that peace, which is what we're looking for, is a moment-by-moment journey. It's not a destination that we come to and we live in that place. Not even the monks that live in a monastery can live there. It's a constant practice. So the first agreement, many of you may know, but we're going to talk about it again, because I found just by taking this class how it's, there's always that reminder, right? Unless we're living from these things, we don't really know them. So the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word, to speak with integrity, to say only what you mean, to be trustworthy, to be honest, and not to exaggerate. Exaggeration is so much fun, right? It becomes very dramatic. We get to have a big impact when we exaggerate. But it's not really being impeccable when we exaggerate. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth with a capital T and love. And use it to create connections, honest, vulnerable connections with people. So why your word? Well, your word has the power to create. We know that, right? It's a gift from the highest part of ourselves, but it also is a double-edged sword because we have to be careful about what we say and how we say it. Impeccable means without sin, which the first time I read that, I was like, whoa. But in Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 Agreements, the way he describes it is, the way unity describes it is, when we miss the mark, when we're saying things that aren't truth. We've missed the mark. It's actually an archery term. When you miss the bullseye, it's a sin. So speaking impeccably is when we're not speaking from that place of truth. Take responsibility for what you say, but don't blame or judge yourself about it. Just say, there I'm exaggerating again. Or, why am I gossiping? Why do I need to gossip right now? What's going on within me that I feel the need to do that? So we have the power to speak something into existence, and we have the power to give it a name. So be conscious about that. And it's called the power, so of our 12 powers, right? That power is called the power of dominion, which comes from our voice box right here, right? What we say, we can create. And we have to be very careful about what we say. Be very mindful of it. Some examples in my life are from when I was a child, and you might have heard this, but I used to get all A's, straight A's, right? And then in about, I think it was like 5th grade, I got a B. And you would think what I did. My mother was just appalled. She was like, what's the matter with you? That's not who you are. You always get A's. What's wrong with you? I still remember that day. I remember the impact it had on me. And since then, I've had this story that what I've done is not enough. And so it's interesting because for a long time I became a perfectionist, and I've gone to the other side of the spectrum and said, it's good enough. Everything is good enough now, even when sometimes I should be putting in more effort. Another incident that happened to me was I was really good at gymnastics. And I loved it. And I would come home and I would show everybody what I learned, and I was so great at it. And they would even say, come on, I want to see what you learned. And then all of a sudden they got bored with it, and they're like, you're just show off. Like it was like a bait and switch thing, So I became like this person that didn't want to be the center of attention. Well, look at what my calling is, right? I mean, not that I need to be the center of attention, but I'm here speaking in front of everybody, kind of like the center of attention. So it took me only 50 years to undo that and realize how that was kind of holding me back. And, we got to look at these statements, which are agreements, right? There were agreements in me that no longer served me, that I had to undo and still work with undoing, looking at where I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, or I'm afraid to pick up the phone to make another sales call or whatever. So to be conscious of what you say to yourself about yourself, make sure it's the truth with a capital T. Also become aware of how you say it. It's so interesting. For many years, I have a really good friend, Hope, who I never realized how sarcastic I could be until she pointed it out to me one day. And I was just like, I didn't even hear it. I wasn't even aware of it because I was raised with sarcasm. And then when she pointed it out to me and I looked up, I think it means something like peeling the scalp off of somebody. I mean, it's some really harsh definition of what sarcasm, where it came from. And I was like, wow, I really don't want to speak like that anymore. Because it's really a way of not being honest about how I feel and kind of coming around it. In another way. So really getting clear as to why I'm saying what I'm saying, and if I'm being sarcastic or snide, what's really going on. So Don Miguel Ruiz says, if we choose to use this agreement to become impeccable with our word, that our life will change by 90%. That's pretty, so I say, okay, let's just work with that one, right? Let's just take that one. But the other 3 are pretty cool too. I mean, the second agreement is, don't take things personally. When we do, we give up our power. What others say has more to say about them than it does about us. When we take things personally, there's a really big ego thing that's going on within us that says the world revolves around me. And whoever's speaking to me is coming into my world. And it's not the truth. Don Miguel Ruiz says, nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality. When you are immune to the opinions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. When you take something personally, you make the assumption that they know what's going on in your world. And then you try to impose it onto their world. So they're not doing anything to you or to me. They're just doing it from their perspective. People do things from their own perspective, their own way of seeing things, and their own childhood wounds. Everything is being filtered through their own false beliefs, their own agreements that came to them from before they were 7 years old. So then the third agreement is, don't make assumptions. What is an assumption? Assumption is when we think we know what the other person is thinking and why they are doing something. Communication is where assumptions and taking personally things come into play. We fill in the blanks without asking questions. We're afraid to ask for clarification, and we want to be right. To fulfill a need to know, to replace the need to communicate. That's why we make assumptions. And to feel safe in the human mind, it needs to justify. So we explain and understand everything. So we make up stuff. We make up stuff all the time. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe that they are the truth. We make assumptions of what other people are thinking or doing, and then we take it personally. It's crazy. It's crazy thinking. And then we blame them. It's all going on in our own head. Most of our sadness and drama is rooted in making assumptions and then taking them personally. We don't perceive things the way they are. We perceive them the way we are. If we don't understand things, we make things up. We make them up quickly because this is the way we were taught to communicate. Assumptions are made because we have agreed it is not safe to ask questions. If people love us, they should know what we want and what we mean when we say something. That's a big assumption that gets us in a lot of trouble. We make assumptions because we believe we are right and because we believe everyone else sees life as we do, and that's not the truth. And then the fourth agreement is always do your best, knowing that your best is different every day. Every day we wake up, our best is going to be different, and give ourselves that kind of latitude. So when we have these agreements running in our background, our life will change if we decide to choose these agreements rather than the ones that are already there. Another way to have a better life is to live by Unity's 5 principles. Principle 1, they're in your bulletin. There is only one presence, one power, active as the universe and as my life, God the good. Another way of saying it is God is. God is infinite. God is always here and is all there is. God is absolute good. God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. But we first must understand God is everything and our connection to and with that truth. God is everywhere present. We can't get away from God. We could stop thinking about it, but again, that's an agreement that we've made that's not going to serve us. The second principle is our essence is of God, therefore we are inherently good, or I am. So we have God is, and we have I am. Another way to say this is human beings are created in the likeness and image of God, and we are inherently good. If we believed that, we'd have no drama in our life, right? Love would be everywhere. We would see love in everything if we really believed that we were created in the likeness and image of God. In Scripture, John 14:7, Jesus said, "If you know me, you will know my Father also. From now on, you do know him and have seen him because you have seen me." So if we are, and we have what Jesus had, then we know God and we have seen God and we can experience God and love. Everyone is God. All of us are one with God and are good. Our work is to see the good and God in them. Help the process of evolving and healing. How we view ourselves, we are born perfect, and the only time we sin or miss the mark is when we forget our divinity. We are all born perfect. Now, I know during this time, and sometimes in the world out there, sometimes it's hard to see that, right? But that's when I personally have to go into prayer and remember there's good that's going to come out of this. Somehow find love in it. So unity is known as practical spirituality. So the next 3 principles are practical applications that we can use in our daily life. The 3rd principle is we are co-creators with God, creating reality through thoughts held in mind. So we have God is, I am, I create. The law of mind action, something responds to our thought. It's substance or God or universal energy or love, whatever it is, it's responding to whatever we are thinking. If we want to know what we are thinking, look around your life. If you don't like what is, start thinking differently. I am responsible for my reaction to whatever happens. And if you want to know what you're thinking, just look around. Principle 4, prayer and meditation. Through prayer and meditation, we align our heart with God. I pray. God is, I am, I create, I pray. Our lives can be changed with affirmative prayer and meditation as often as possible. That is what Jesus did regularly. Jesus was in prayer and meditation a lot. It increases our connection to the divine. Practicing quiet time allows us to tap into divine thoughts. It gives us time to cultivate a way of thinking that moves us into positive experiences of life. When we shift our energy from being a victim and taking things personally and making assumptions, we have already created something, but begin now by changing our thoughts to see what will happen next. Our mind is like soil. Anything grows, so prepare the soil. Make sure you're putting good seeds in that soil. And then principle 5, through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth we know, or I live. God is, I am, I create, I pray, I live. Another way, knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth with a capital T. Truth with a small t is my opinion. Let me tell you my truth. No, that's your opinion. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. Knowledge is not enough, right? If you learn something but you're not applying it, it's really just entertainment. Mary Morrissey used to say that in, what was that class? Prosperity Plus. So we must live these principles. She also said there's a difference between knowing about something and knowing it. If you're not living it, you know about it. You don't know it. So the best chance to be whole is to love whatever gets in the way of your good. Love it until it ceases to be, right? God is the presence of love and is everywhere. What this principle is assuring us of is wherever we look is God. Do you see God everywhere you look? In your neighbor, in your children, in your pets, in the person who just cut you off, in the leaders of our country. Do you see God and good? God and good is in all the places and all the circumstances. There's another quote that I liked. When you're down to nothing, God is up to something. I like that. I thought that was really good. So having these principles running in your background will increase your energy, move you forward, and uplift you to where and what you came here to do and be as a child of God. So now we have peace. We have agreements for our apps. We have agreements, we have principles, and we have peace. Those are the apps we want running in our background, right? So peace is not a final destination. It is not something we arrive at someday and never lose. Peace is a daily practice, a choice we make over and over again, moment by moment. Do you ever go to the gym and think you're going to work out once and have all those muscles and they're going to stay that way? No. No, peace is the same way. It needs to be worked on every single day. The world is always testing us. There's always something to be frustrated about, something to be angry about, and there's always going to be difficult people around us. True peace comes when we no longer feel the need to prove, defend, or react. The next time you feel anger rising, don't ask why they did what they did to me. Ask, why does it bother me? And that answer, that question is going to make you go in. And the moment you look within, you gain control again. This is taking the ego out and putting God in. Using these agreements and principles will help us get back to that peace over and over again. So to summarize, we seek clarity in all we speak, think, and do using these apps as your background. Become conscious of your subconscious thoughts that are running your background, so be mindful. Use the 4 agreements to change your mindset. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. Use the 5 principles. God is, I am, I create, I pray, I live. And know that peace is a moment-by-moment journey. I want to say thank you. I'm your sister in prayer, possibility, and power. Know that I love you and I appreciate you, and that until we need each other again, that you're blessed and a blessing.